Hey everybody, welcome to Get Busy Watching! I'm your host Honest Dan, let's talk movies. Welcome to my rapid fire Sci-Fi Fantasy Edition. Let's get started! This South Korean sci-fi action romp is about this scientist using her legendary soldier mother's combat abilities to replicate into an AI army and end a civil war. It's not my favorite that South Korea has put out. By no means a bad movie, it has some truly stellar moments, but the writing really brings it down. A lot of information is dumped on the audience and very little, if any of it, is gonna feel like it truly matters. A civil war between Faction A and Faction B, hell if I remember the proper names, which barely matters because the story focuses on one side, and a corporate side no less. All that matters is the jumbled commentary. How morally right is it to profit off a soldier that's died? To use their likeness to profit off of them in both children's playthings or even clone them and send them off to war again? Is it okay to torture robots? What does it mean to be human? Yeah, that seems to be a theme thrown in there by the end. Commentary on capitalism, among many other things that likely went way over my head. What held this together for me was the acting and surprising effectiveness of the special effects. The late Kang Soo-youn as the heart and soul of the story keeps you engaged as she tries to keep her mother's legacy from being abused, only to have twists and turns make her question her purpose in the end and take matters into her own hands. The standout is Kang Soo, who is pretty much the Gaston of the story, starting off as a bumbling cartoon character, only to become staggeringly menacing in the final act. And the CGI isn't great, but for a movie with a comparative $16 million US, it gets away with a lot and definitely where it matters. The climax is definitely where it's at. It's action-packed, a little CG heavy, but it's utilized well, making the entire experience worthwhile. It isn't perfect, but if you have a high tolerance for foreign films and you're subscribed to Netflix, I do recommend it. My honest rating for Jung-E, a strong 3 out of 5.
난 늘 엄마가 나 때문에 죽을지도 모른다고 생각하고 출동한 엄마를 보면서
She made her debut at age 4 and became a prominent child actor by starring in various TV series and films. At age 21, she won Best Actress at the Venice International Film Festival for roles in The Surrogate Womb, directed by Im Kwon-taek in 1987. 2 years later, she also received the Best Actress award at the Moscow International Film Festival and earned the nickname the World Class Star.
Set in 1994, the Autobots are back to battle against a new threat, the planet-eating robot god Unicron and his Terrorcons. Teaming up with the Maximals and the guy from In the Heights, they attempt to save the world. It's surprisingly not that bad. Look, I'm not sitting here saying that it's the best of the best, but it knows what it is. A movie about rock'em sock'em robots. What this does surprisingly well is making you feel for the robot characters. They both have a stake in the oncoming threat. They have both lost and have relatable motivations that make them feel a little more human than other installments in the franchise have done. They aren't the most in-depth, but they have their moments and you care. Even the human characters aren't that bad this go around, having their own stakes and motivations that you can get behind. Some action scenes certainly stand out better than others, but for the most part are directed well. The special effects aren't anything to write home about, but aren't the worst that cinema has to offer. Where it falls short are Dominique Fishback and the villains. Fishback's character feels like she's shoehorned in to be just another human character to carry us through the story. She feels forced and kind of there just to be there. The villains are interchangeable with the Decepticons, not really feeling that different other than some cosmetic changes that feel inconsequential. And while I praise most of the writing, I was really hoping that the emotional weight would hit hard by the end, but loses said weight when it undoes something that could have given this installment serious gravity. If you've been with the franchise since the beginning, I imagine you're gonna have some fun with this anyway, especially if you're anything like me and think that the only good ones are the first one and Bumblebee. But if you fell off the wagon, it's not gonna change your mind. I personally recommend it as entertainment fluff though. My honest rating for Transformers Rise of the Beasts, a 4 out of 5.
I will end you, Scourge. That is a promise.
Where's my hat? Where'd my hat go? The Flash goes back in time to save his mom from death. By doing so, he changes the course of the future and sets off to try and make everything work out for the better. It sucks. Because of course it does. And I'm not just talking about Ezra Miller. The Lord knows he's a really good reason to skip this. The easiest thing to criticize is the CGI. It's bad. But if that was the worst thing this had going for it, then it'd be a downright great film. Miller as Flash is not entertaining. He's not funny. When running parallel to his dual performance as his younger self, who is infinitely more obnoxious, then you have a recipe for the most uncomfortable acting in a superhero movie since the 2000s. Even the inclusion of Michael Keaton as Batman, while a fun addition in theory, is woefully disappointing as his characterization doesn't feel like it's on par with Tim Burton's original Batman character. At least, not completely. In another life, I would accept Sasha Calle as Supergirl, but she has such little development that it's near impossible to care about her. I do appreciate some deep-cut fan service cameos, such as seeing a digital Christopher Reeve and Helen Slater side by side, as well as Nicolas Cage's Superman, but all of it feels pretty lame when it's in a story with writing this bad. It's one of the worst superhero films in years, and that's saying something because Thor: Love and Thunder exists. If you haven't seen this, count your blessings. You are not missing much. My honest rating for The Flash, a 2 out of 5.
You don't stop talking. It's not charming. It's abrasive and exhausting, and oh my god, I am starting to realize what people mean.
Adam Driver is a human from another planet and crash lands on a prehistoric Earth. He has to find a means to escape while protecting the only survivor, a young girl. I can see why this wasn't a popular flick at the time. It's not especially well written, and even the most historically unsavvy person can smell the inaccuracies. But I don't mind it. What I find a little dumbfounding is how inconsistent the dinosaur representation is. Yes, T-Rexes and other featured critters were around just before the asteroid hit. Light spoilers, yes, that's technically when this takes place. The velociraptors aren't feathered that much, though are of the appropriate size compared to their Jurassic Park counterparts. Certain featured dinos definitely didn't exist around this time, like the Nothosaurus, though it is a cool looking predator. But I do give credit for featuring a Jackapil, which apparently has only been discovered about 10 years ago. That's pretty cool. And it's cute. It looks like a micro T-Rex and it's an herbivore. Beyond all that, Driver is trying to make it work and does an adequate job being a badass while balancing sensitivity protecting this young girl. Their chemistry is endearing if not basic. The action is bland, though I do enjoy how graphic the creature violence can get. It's nothing to write home about, but I don't have the same problems with it as other people might. It's run-of-the-mill sci-fi survival fare. I don't recommend it unless you're a fan of Adam Driver. My honest rating for 65, a 3 out of 5.
Oof.
This German sci-fi follows this employee of a company that's able to transfer the youth from a young person, aging them, to an older person, de-aging them. When his wife is forced to transfer 40 years of her life to someone else due to a lack of insurance when their home burns down, he kidnaps the person her youth went to in hopes of giving it back. This was a damn fine film. Provocative, emotional, gripping, smart, way better than I thought it would be. The way this world works is that the youthful people in question are generally poor or otherwise less fortunate, and are paid handsomely to give up X amount of years of their life for the rich and powerful. From the get-go, you're faced with questions. Would you give up 5 years of your life for a lot of money to a person who simply wants that youth? Do you agree with the terrorist organization that kills these rich people for going against nature even though they've never done anything wrong? Then when the wife is forced to give up 40 years to someone, could you continue to love and be intimate with a woman who is 60 or 70 years old? What if you could give that youth back to her? How far would you go for her? What lines would you be willing to cross? How far would you let things go when they've clearly gone too far? The film never relents in making you think, but it never forgets to let main characters, Victor and Elena, to be real characters and have real stakes in their predicament that the audience can get behind. Maybe not always agree with, but understand them. Maybe it can be criticized that Elena has a character shift a little late in the story that doesn't make all the sense in the world, but the ambiguous ending more than makes up for it. Personally, this might be one of my favorite sci-fi flicks of the year. It certainly elevates itself and tries harder than most of its genre, and for the most part, I think it succeeds in what it sets out to do. If you have Netflix, I recommend it. My honest rating for Paradise, a strong 4 out of 5.
Hey, Sie haben Ihre Hilfe versprochen.
Sie treten jetzt sofort zurück, sonst hat das Konsequenzen für Ihre Zukunft hier.
Chris Pine's daughter, Chloe Coleman, is being held hostage by his former thieving partner, Hugh Grant. In order to get her back, he must infiltrate his castle with a lot of help. This is what cinema needs right now. A good old-fashioned swords and sorcery fantasy adventure. This was so much fun. It certainly helps that the core cast carrying the flick is a lot of fun to watch. Pine is his usual charming self, as well as being the heart of the story fighting for his daughter, as well as Michelle Rodriguez, who is her usual ass-kicking self. The physical comedy alone is something sorely missed in lighter action fare, and this delivered. Justice Smith isn't my favorite actor, but he does alright here. Sophia Lillis is criminally underutilized for how charming she is. Hugh Grant is Hugh Grant, which is a very good thing. The action is a whole lot of fun. I will forever be in love with the chonky dragon. If that doesn't get made into a plushie, I'm going to riot. The gorgeous landscapes, the creative fantastical creatures, despite some dodgy special effects at times, the amazing fantasy tropes and references in general. The only legit negative I have is the daughter that Pine is fighting for. Somehow, she believes all the lies that Grant tells her despite knowing her father's line of work, and has only lived with Grant for 2 years. She's remarkably dumb, and the drama there is wildly superficial. I don't play Dungeons and Dragons, but I do appreciate this kind of fantasy storytelling. It aspires to have emotions, and it works. But more than anything, it's a great world to be a part of, with fantastic characters that you love to follow. It exceeded all of my expectations, so I highly recommend you check this out. My honest rating for Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, a strong 4 out of 5.
We must flee.
Why? Kill them all.
It is no simple feat to kill that which is already dead.
Indiana Jones is back. His goddaughter, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, inadvertently ropes him into searching for the 2 halves of Archimedes' Dial of Destiny before Mads Mikkelsen gets it for his own nefarious purposes. Yeah. Okay, it's not the garbage fire that I thought it would be, but dear God, is it still a garbage fire. Never thought I'd see the day where I'd miss nuked fridges and swinging monkeys. Harrison Ford is clearly trying to make this work. He still has charm, he's still fun to watch, even if he is slower. And to parrot the rest of the world, the opening sequence with a digitally de-aged Ford back in World War II punching Nazis is a lot of fun. But as soon as it ends, it only goes downhill. Shia LaBeouf went to Vietnam and died, and now he and Marion Ravenwood are divorced. Gee, never seen a legacy character under God Emperor Disney's umbrella given the broken, pathetic old man treatment before. But then Helena shows up and things only get worse. You know the writing just gives up when you have her literally call herself a capable, beautiful woman. She spends so much time hating on Indy for no discernible reason. Indy himself is written to be a moron as well, constantly saying that XYZ should be in a museum, but literally hides his half of the dial in a library. Why? Broccoli. Because it's as good a reason as anything else. The short round stand-in is not any more likable either, his unibrow constantly distracting me, but not more so than his own stupidity, and let's face it, is just a magic character. He can fly planes even though he's never flown one before. It's ridiculous. I wish I could compliment Mikkelsen, but his character is so one-dimensional. The filmmakers know he's a better actor than this, right? And by the end, it's a hollow experience and I couldn't wait to get out of the theater. I don't even consider the opening sequence to be a true positive at this point because clearly the filmmakers knew how to give us a proper Indiana Jones experience, but decided to not. The Indiana Jones franchise is not my favorite franchise, but I have always respected it and have always understood its place as an icon in pop culture. God Emperor Disney does not respect this IP and definitely doesn't deserve it. And it's so sad that this is how it's gonna go out, because you and I both know we ain't getting another one. Not recommended. My honest rating for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, a 2 out of 5.
How did you end up like this?
Flaming, resourceful, daring, beautiful, self-sufficient!
Barbie has an existential crisis and travels from her fantasy home of Barbie Land to the real world to find the girl that plays with her and sees what she can do to make her happy again. Don't let the summary fool you. This is not in my family-friendly rapid fire for a reason. This is a deeply cynical film that is not suitable for either a child or an adult with a functioning brain. From the very opening, you can almost tell how this story is gonna go. The Kens are second-class citizens in Barbie Land and function only as the Barbies see fit. So you can tell at some point the Kens are gonna rebel and take control, creating a patriarchy. And I swear to God, I will shove a screwdriver in my ear if I ever hear that word one more time. It's so overused in this thing. Even when Barbie enters the real world, one would think the filmmakers would approach it in a similar fashion as Enchanted. Thank you, Critical Drinker, for that comparison. Where the real world is taken relatively realistically, but it might as well have been an extension of Barbie Land for how unrealistic it really is. Men just ogle Barbie as if she's the hottest thing in the world. Dude, I live in Southern California. Margot Robbie is a dime a dozen in the world of Hollywood to me. She ain't mid like this clown thinks, but she's not top of the world so I can stare like this thinks. The mechanics of how Barbie world affects the real world make no sense, or even how the real world affects Barbie world. The main human characters are boring or unlikable, and the resolution feels hollow, like nothing was really achieved. The only saving grace is Ryan Gosling. Sometimes. He can be funny, but sometimes he's awkward. And some of Robbie's mannerisms bringing the Barbie doll to life can be funny as well, but not always. This was a chore to sit through. I feel like the only reason kids will enjoy this is because it's colorful and energetic, but don't necessarily understand the subtext. As for adults, I don't know, man. Bottom of the barrel humor seems to have its place in Hollywood, so I guess as long as Ryan Gosling is acting like a doofus and Will Ferrell just breathes, then you'll be in a good spot. As for anyone who might actually have standards for their comedy, run. My honest rating for Barbie, a 2 out of 5, saved only by Gosling and Robbie, occasionally.
You can go back to your regular life, or you can know the truth about the universe. The choice is now yours.
The first one, the high heel.
Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great day, stay safe and healthy out there, and hope to see you soon.
What do we get from the light of the sun? A nasty burn, now isn't that fun? Swim in the ocean, run on the beach, drown in the surf and blood like a leech. We have no time for merrymaking. Chop